Hey, Senator, also wanted to get your thoughts. You've been somewhat critical. I think we've had a couple of discussions about Qatar, the Qataris over the years. They now plan to provide a plane to the president. There's some questions about the emoluments clause and whether it's going to go to his library, whether he's going to get to fly on it afterwards. What are your thoughts about all this?
Well, listen, I'm not a fan of Qatar. I think they have a really disturbing pattern of funding theocratic lunatics who want to murder us, funding Hamas and Hezbollah, and that's a real problem. I also think that the plane poses significant espionage and surveillance problems. So we'll see how this issue plays out. But I certainly have concerns. I will say what Brad said a minute ago about the announcement, Secretary Besant's announcement, I emphatically agree with. And in fact, the way he broke it down of two paths, one path using the leverage of tariffs to get lower tariffs. That's a fantastic path. That's, I think, what the president is doing, which is why the market is reacting positively. There is another camp within his administration that doesn't want lower tariffs, wants to see high tariffs in perpetuity. And I think right now the president has made the right decision to go down path number one. I think that's exactly Senator, the right path to go down.
Senator, the higher Brad mentioned the reconciliation bill. The higher the higher tax rates off the table. Apparently, we talked about that just last week. I think when you were on. But you know, the Medicaid stuff, Republicans wimping out. They're still going to get hammered by Democrats, even with the really anemic reforms that are in there about Medicaid. And now you got theoretically the importation. It wasn't as bad as people thought, but the importation of price controls on pharmaceuticals. Do you have any comments on either one of those recent things since it happened since you were on?
Sure. So let me say several things. Number one, I'm glad the House has put out its tax bill that is cutting taxes, that is maintaining things like, for example, the House incorporated my legislation, no taxes on tips. I think that's going to be really important for working class voters across the country. I'm really grateful to see that. I think extending the tax cuts is incredibly important for our economy. In terms of Medicaid, I think the House made some important steps forward. I'm hopeful. I think there's a real possibility you'll see the Senate stand up and be even bolder, and be bolder, number one, in terms of strengthening work requirements, but number two, in terms of going after waste, fraud, and abuse. There's a considerable abuse in the Medicaid system, particularly in big blue states where you have politicians that have taken advantage of the federal taxpayers. So I'm hopeful that this will be a back and forth. In 2017, the House passed a really good bill. It went to the Senate. The Senate made it stronger. And then we went to conference committee, and it made it even stronger. I'm hopeful we'll see that same iteration. You know, I will say, Joe, in addition to no taxes on tips and Invest America accounts, there were two other big victories of legislation I was fighting for that are in the House bill. They created a pipeline to auction spectrum, 600 megahertz of spectrum, to make it available to the private sector. That is hugely important and will unleash billions in new investment. And they also included a version of my legislation to create federal tax credits for contributions to scholarship granting organizations in the states. If enacted, that will be the most far-reaching federal school choice legislation ever enacted. And I actually think that legislation and Invest America are likely to be the two biggest legacy items of this legislation. They're both in the House bill, and so the credit goes to Jason Smith and to the Speaker, who've really shown tremendous leadership on the House.
Senator, we're out of time, but I'm getting a text from someone who's watching us just to put a fine point on the airplane, because I think people wanted to understand. If you're worried about the national security issues about that, would you be telling the president explicitly, do not accept that plane? And if you were to accept it, is that something where you think the Senate might try to take action in terms of investigating things related to it?
Look, I think there will be serious conversations, especially on the security side. We've seen in the past, for example, issues with embassies in foreign countries. That when we've let foreign countries build an American embassy, the walls are literally filled with bugs and listening devices. You look at the technology now. You think of the conversations that occur on Air Force One. Any nation, but especially a nation like Qatar that funds Hamas, would love to know every conversation that happens on Air Force One. So I think the security challenges there would be massive. This issue will continue to play out. I'm confident we have not reached the final resolution of it.
What's your thought on the emoluments clause piece of it about being able to take the plane and keep the plane afterwards?
I think that's a question that will be litigated. It is uncharted territory, so I don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure it will be litigated.